Hello students, today you're going to take Cornell notes on evidence for evolution. Just like to refresh your memory, Cornell notes, there will be pictures. They're not to draw, they're just to kind of give you an idea of what is being explained in the video. I mean, you can draw it if you want, but it's optional. What is required for a grade is the question on the left. You have to make your own, all of them, all four. And I'm grading notebooks today for some of you. And over here, a summary and an advanced question. All right, let's begin. There's multiple evidence to support the theory of evolution. We've been talking about evolution, and there's a lot of evidence to support this theory. It's not something that scientists just kind of made up or Darwin made up. Just like always, I'll give you the first one, so I'll just tell you right now, and you write it on the left, and then the rest you have to do your own. You can say, how do scientists know evolution is a correct theory, or the correct theory? You can use that, or feel free to make your own. If the video is going too fast, remember just to pause it and rewind it if you need to. Okay, number two. The evidence number one for evolution. The first piece of evidence that we can use to prove evolution is that the fossil record, or fossils in the ground, show how there's a gradual change in certain species. The whale is a great example. It shows how they slowly evolved over time. What's interesting is there's some key organisms that give us more ideas of evolution than others. Like we know more about other organisms sometimes than our own species of hominids. But let's take a look at this picture to see what I'm talking about. So here you can see the evolution of a whale. First, the whale was land-based. You can see the whale being land-based. And that's interesting because there's the whales, if you don't know, are mammals. They give birth to young, and they also have milk for their young. And you can see when they were mammals, that was probably really easy on land. It seems like it would be much more difficult in the ocean, but when they first were around on land, it must have been easier. And look at the bone structures of the land whales. And then you notice that there probably wasn't as much food, so the species evolved or changed slowly, and it jumped into water. And you notice that the skeleton is very, very similar, especially look at the head and the teeth here and here. But there were slight differences. You notice the feet in the back, these are more elongated, more for paddling. So it was probably like a good swimmer, more like a dolphin. And it was also was probably able to go on land and in the ocean. So this is like a transition from being just a land animal to a land and water animal. And then eventually it just found a lot of success in the ocean and it stayed in the oceans. So over millions of years, 50 million and then 49 million and so on, the organism slowly transitioned. We don't have that many fossils that are great like the whales. That's why the whale is a perfect example that show us this very gradual transition. There's a lot of gaps in the species that we know of because a lot of them have gone extinct and we don't have as many fossils when it comes to seeing how one species transitions and evolves specifically. But like I said, the whale is a good example of showing us these slow adaptations and how they built up over time to have a really radical change in an organism. Okay, go ahead and make up a question for two, and then here's number three, and rewind it if you need to. So the evidence number two for evolution is that all organisms, be it small, be it large, be it one cell, being trillions of cells, all organisms have DNA. And in some organisms, what's interesting, the DNA-like pieces, the sections or chromosomes are the same. All right, so let's look at these little lines. These little lines represent DNA that's clumped together. It's called a chromosome. And then here's just one chromosome compared to another chromosome of a different species, chimpanzee. And look at the length of them, which means these sections, let's say this section controls the ability to give live birth and then the ability to make milk in the mother. Let's say that's the whole section right there. And then you could tell that chimpanzees have the same exact chromosome. And you notice that most of them are similar. Of course, there is differences. The similarities between us and chimpanzees are about, surprisingly, 98%, which is pretty high. But you can tell there's a lot of difference right here in these chromosomes. Probably affects how we walk upright and maybe our intelligence. But you notice that a lot of the chromosomes are very similar. So that's evidence that in the animal kingdom we're all connected and we're not special when it comes to evolutionary speaking. We come from other organisms. And DNA is one key to prove that. And the next idea is that different species, be it bats, be it humans, we have similar bone structures, especially if you are similarly or closely related. So let's look at some images here. We might have seen this image before, but you can see the different organisms like a cat and a human and a dolphin, but they have very similar bone structures. They've adapted to different jobs, so that's why they specialize and become maybe a little bit more elongated or longer. But they have the similar connections, let's say, the similar patterns of which bones go which place. So you can see these are more flexible, so it allows more like fine movements. And these are right here are connected with many fine joints to allow more movement as well. So the anatomy or bone structures of different organisms being similar is also proof that evolution is most likely correct. And the last evidence for evolution is that embryos demonstrate that our DNA has instructions on how to build specific structures that are part of our species. This one I'll show you here. For example, I know some of you can wiggle your ears. Most of us can't. What happens is that animals such as monkeys actually have much more control over their ears because it helps them kind of locate where a predator is coming from, let's say. We really don't need that as much because we don't get, let's say, eaten by predators in the jungle anymore, so we've lost that ability. But some of us still have it in our DNA code and they are able to use that. So having these what's called vestigial traits is something that proves that evolution is most likely correct. Okay, let me go back to number 5. Go ahead and make your 4-sentence summary, your advanced question, and then move on to the next step. Have a great day.